What terrifying confession has someone told you while drunk? I heard my mom tell her friend I was a mistake and the reason her and my dad divorced. That's why you don't eavesdrop. God, after my mom died I was going through her email. We never had a good relationship pretty much ever. Anyways, I went in her Gmail and just did a search for my name. Found a part where she told my aunt how much she didn't like me and wishes I would just go away. It wasn't the least bit surprising, and I've said the same thing about her, but it still stung a bit. The thing we always fought about was her drinking. She was a chronic abusive alcoholic. As just a stranger, this made me hurt for you. I hope you have moved on and are not only okay but thriving. I hope you're alright, man. I'm fine. Yeah, it really isn't your fault. The truth is, your mom and dad were not responsible enough back then and weren't mature enough to make a marriage work with a kid on the way. If my man and I had a surprise pregnancy, we'd roll with it and make it work for everyone. I hope you have a good relationship with your parents now, because just like all of us, we do mature and change our outlooks on life. If anything, your mom might even be wrong or in denial about why their marriage dissolved. Thanks. Yeah, I get along good with everybody. My mom and stepdad. My dad and stepmom. So it worked okay, just was shitty to hear. Damn. That one hit me like a punch in the gut. Can't imagine what it must have done to you. Just know you are not the reason they got divorced. Their bad decisions, lack of communication, unwillingness to grow and change, whatever it is. I know, but it sticks with you. I can imagine. I'm sorry you heard that. This is silly, but I want to give you a big hug because you are important and deserving of lots of love and acceptance. So here's an internet hug from an older woman whose parents also kinda sucked. Lol, thanks. Sorry your parents sucked. The coworker told me she went all angel of mercy and smothered her elderly, dementia-ridden grandmother while she was sleeping. The next Monday in the office was definitely a weird one after that particular happy hour confession. My granny always tells us to push her out onto an ice floe when she can't think for herself anymore, which is slightly disturbing but fine, until she semi-ironically talks about going into her friend's dementia home and machine gunning all the old people. Insane to think about a disease existing that affects pretty much only your generation and wipes out memories, personality, pride. Think she's using dark humor to deal. Almost certainly. She has done a lot of volunteering with cancer patients and has probably seen a lot of people die that she knew well as get dementia. Luckily she still has people around her and we make sure she is doing alright. She has kids and grandkids as well, which helps, I think. You know what? If I were bedridden, unable to remember anything or have any agency of my own, I hope that there's someone like your coworker willing to put me out of my misery. Losing my mind memory is the scariest shit to me. Cancer is fucking scary, but at least with cancer you understand what is going on. You understand what is killing you. You are still you. With dementia, Alzheimer, you just exist. I worked in a hospital and an alcoholic guy I knew from around my town came in. Of course he was very drunk, so he got a bed. He was homeless at this point. Just as he was starting to settle he screamed. I slit his fucking throat. So I went up to him and asked him to settle, and he started telling me that he did it while in the army and could never forgive himself for it. Cried himself to sleep and died in the local park a few months later. Holy fuck, that ending though. Just goes to show how little our country supports veterans who gave up their mental health to defend it. Yes. The thing that gets me is how homeless veterans is so common. How dare our country care so little about the people who fight for our country that they let them become homeless and go without proper therapy. It was me who did the confessing. When I was 18 I was sexually assaulted on a bridge in the middle of the night when I was all alone. My mum works in hearing and she had always told me to bite someone if I got into trouble. So I did. I bit into his neck until my teeth met again. He fell down, then I ran all the way home. A few weeks later I read in the news that a serial assaulter had gone to the hospital with neck wounds and later died. They'd drawn it down to him attacking someone and them acting in self-defense. I never told anyone until I got really drunk with my boyfriend last year and spilled it. He couldn't believe I'd kept that secret. Absolutely self-defense on your part. And that guy never assaulted anyone else again. You are a double hero. I have a friend whose grandmother married her late husband's friend. One day while drunk he confessed to killing her first husband. She packed up the kids and left. Did she report him? Did he kill the first husband to get her for himself? Or did he marry her out of guilt? I have questions. I think the second killed the first to get with his wife. I just asked my buddy if she ever went to the police. My mom was in another state for business. A company flew her crew out to Texas to discuss a change in software and offered their company, and so it was just my dad taking care of me. I was about 10 and he came to tuck me in one night, but he is incredibly hammered. He opened the door to my bedroom, told me I was a mistake that saved them from getting divorced and good night. Worst part is he didn't close the door completely when he left. Last part hit close to home, have some respect. Shut the goddamn door, Jesus Christ, right? I really didn't even understand what he told me at the time, just that I could see the light in the hallway and it was keeping me up. My sister's boyfriend at the time told me he thought he might have fallen for the wrong sister. Doesn't compare to most of these, but my sister is my best friend and I was so scared he might ruin that. Edit. Since a lot of people have asked, no, I never told my sister about it. Another edit. They broke up very shortly after this because he was untrustworthy in other ways. He stole some money, she kicked him to the curb. Feel for you, I had a similar situation, but with my cousin. We were super close with each other, very much like sisters. Her boyfriend was around a lot and had always gotten along with him too, we had a really nice group dynamic. Then he tells me out of the blue that he wants to be with me instead and was only still dating my cousin so he could see me. Was such an awful moment. I brushed him off and didn't tell her about it. They broke up later because he was cheating with another girl. I'm glad they did because A, terrible guy, and B, I honestly would have had no idea how to go about telling her. A friend of mine died from a drug overdose. After the funeral, a mutual friend of ours and I were getting drunk when he broke down crying. He asked me if I remembered the time when he and our dead friend told me about an accident that they'd witnessed where they saw a truck driver die. I told him I did. He then told me the most fucked up shit. He said that our friend ran up to the dying man and stole his wedding ring and that the man couldn't do anything but look up, terrified, at our friend as he was being robbed. I knew they were bad into drugs, but I never thought they could do anything like that. I grew up with them, they were like my brothers. I don't really trust anyone completely anymore. No drugs or alcohol involved, but I have somewhat of a similar story. A few years ago, my mom witnessed an accident. A lady was texting, blew through a red light, and T-boned a truck with an elderly man driving. My mom jumped out of her car and held onto him while waiting for an ambulance. The girl who hit him, early 20s, was freaking out and called her mom. The mom showed up first and kept telling my mom, just tell the cops here and the red light, no one will know. And he died. My mom heard his last words, sounds, really, that she repeated for weeks. My mom cried for days. She met the family and it was the man and his wife's anniversary or something like that. We obviously told the cops the truth, but we don't know any of the follow-up. His obituary is framed on our wall. I hate to think the last thing he heard was just tell the cops this was his fault. Had a buddy tell me his friend drunkenly confessed to him that he had killed his stepdad and made it look like a suicide. His stepdad had been abusive towards him and his mom for years, and it finally broke when he made it look like his stepfather had hung himself in their garage. I don't know who the friend was, I was never given a name or much else of the story. The second year after I graduated from HS, all of us in the graduating class, 22 total, went on a camping trip. One of the dudes got really drunk and we were just catching up when he confessed that to the whole class. That he killed his mom's BF. He was always come and go anyway, he was a truck driver, would regularly cheat and spend the night week with that woman. Rinse. Wash. Repeat. Him being MIA was no cause for alarm. He also was abusive towards his mother. He has gotten into fights, pulling him off his mom. We all just looked at each other, the dude who was sitting closest to him just patted him on the back and we passed him the joint. I don't think anyone has brought it up since. I heard my mom tell her friend I was a mistake and the reason her and my dad divorced. That's why you don't eavesdrop. After my mom died I was going through her email. We never had a good relationship pretty much ever. Anyways, I went in her Gmail and just did a search for my name. Found a part where she told my aunt Hoyt she didn't like me and wishes I would just go away. It wasn't the least bit surprising and I've said the same thing about her, but it still stung a bit. The thing we always fought about was her drinking. She was a chronic abusive alcoholic. As just a stranger, this made me hurt for you. I hope you have moved on and are not only okay but thriving. Haha, I put Adderall in your beer. We're gonna party till the sun comes up, bro. Spiking people's drinks is so scummy. Is there any more to this story? At one point he whipped out a knife and put a hole in the surprisingly thin bathroom wall of the dive bar. Shithead carved his name above it. I had a massive mood swing and got in a really nasty parking lot fight. I woke up with dried blood on my knuckles, heart beating out of my chest, and paralyzing anxiety. The guy was like the Kenny Bainey of our friend group. Always spastic and obnoxious, and taking things past the point of being entertaining. No one ever wanted to hang out with him one-on-one. I thought I was being a good guy by giving him a shot. This effectively got him ostracized from our friend group. Went on a work do and my co-worker, a major stone-faced bland woman, got pretty drunk. Ended up telling me she discovered her dad's body when he hung himself. Needless to say, I realized why she was the way she was after that. My ex told me that he had been molested by his sister between the ages of 6 to 11. She was 9 to 14. His dad walked in once and didn't do anything. His own family knew that he was being sexually abused for years and did absolutely nothing to protect him. My ex was raped by her brother aged 10, scars from that tore us apart 20 years later, despite multiple attempts to heal. We're both married to other people now, but I think about this a lot. I'm afraid it's likely that the sister was being molested by the father. She was the mom's daughter from another marriage, and her first husband had molested her. My ex's dad was the second husband, and no, he didn't touch her. He just didn't care that she touched his son. If my ex were still in love with me, I wouldn't be married to you. Oh my god. I still think about it. I don't think I'll ever forget it. It keeps me up at night sometimes. Are you still married with him? Yes. On a lighter note, I still have a Kmart out here. It's a nice place to shop. When I was 14, my mom took me and my sisters and a couple of our friends to the beach. My sister, 15, and I got our own room with our 2 friends and wound up meeting some boys and getting drunk. My sister's friend, 15F, was really drunk and got super upset and confessed that her stepfather had been sexually molesting her, raping her, for years. Really horrible stuff. It sobered everyone up fast. We rallied around her, told her we were there for her, yada yada, but when we got home from the beach trip a few days later, I knew I needed to tell my mom. After I told my mom, she got the state police involved. There was a trial, and the man wound up sentenced to 8 years in prison. It turned out he was doing it to the younger sister as well. There are so many terrible people out there. I'm really glad that at such a young age, all of you handled it so well and helped her out. I'm sure she really appreciated it. We are still friends and she is a happy, well-adjusted 37-year-old woman with 2 kids now. Actually, she's way better than that. She has a heart of gold. I own a photography business and her husband happens to have this vintage truck that he adores, and she sweet-talked him into letting me borrow it for a day of Christmas mini sessions. I should go shoot her a message and remind her how awesome she is. At a family gathering, my grandma got tipsy and started to tell stories from her childhood. Well, she does this every time, no matter tipsy or sober. Guess it's just a normal grandma thing. This time it took a dark turn. She told us a story that is the reason she hates to go to the dentist and particularly hates the drilling part. She told us a story about when she was 6 years old. During World War II, my family lived in Hamburg, Germany, right next to the harbor. During a particular week in 1943, the city was continuously bombed and over 35,000 people died and more than 100,000 people were injured. The houses that were hit mostly burned down, creating a huge fire with such force that I sucked not only oxygen in, creating strong winds, but also people. The fire created such heat that people running out of their burning houses got stuck in the molten asphalt on the streets and burned to death. As it was all happening around her, that particular smell was present for over a week in her part of the city. Drilling in your tooth creates exactly that smell. My grandma had to stop the dentist as she recognized the smell immediately. This story shook us to the core as it came out of the blue. It still sends chills down my spine. My story can't compare with yours in significance, and it has nothing to do with drinking. But my mother always hated driving over a particular bridge, one that had a metal mesh as the roadbed. The sound the tires make is very particular. We used to tease her about it for years. One day she had enough and told us why. When she was away in World War II, she went out to party with some sailors. One of them had a car with running boards, and one more sailor wanted to come along, one the other guys didn't like. They told him to ride on the running board and hang on. When they went over a bridge with a similar roadbed, they hit the gas, and the extra sailor fell off and was run over. She was still carrying the guilt 40 years later.